Hello everyone, this is Kat and welcome back to My Hero Academia Podfics. This will be the continuation of Yuuei Survival Guide. This will be part 41, chapter 41. Settling Eri into another dorm actually went a lot better than Izuku assumed it would have. He'd been a constant in her life since she had been rescued from Chisaki, and he knows he himself was a little on edge at the thought of leaving her, even if he knew that she'd be completely safe with Midnight. It went better than Izuku was expecting, sure, but that doesn't mean that Eri's first official night with Midnight had gone exactly to plan. They'd spent the afternoon up with Nemuri and Eri and in the woman's apartment. They ate dinner together and had cookies for dessert. They tried to keep it as normal as they could, even in a new setting. After that, they'd played a child-friendly board game that Shoda and Hisashi had picked up. A game that Asui had said her little brother and sister loved to play, and collectively let Eri win, just to see her staring wide-eyed at her game piece on the finished square. Following that, Izuku had watched a couple of episodes of the show that Eri was currently enthralled with her, and was trying to follow along. When had children's shows gotten so random? Izuku could distantly hear Shoda and Hisashi explaining the bedtime routine that they'd started adjusting Eri to so that Nemuri wouldn't be completely out of her depth on the first night together. When she seemed relatively comfortable in the apartment, and with Nemuri, Shoda, Hisashi, and Izuku had gone back to the 1A dorms for the night, silently hoping for the best as Nemuri and Eri were left to their own devices. And they hadn't heard anything for a while, until night fell. Izuku was down in his dorm for the first time in a little over a week, when there was a light rapping of knuckles on his dorm door. He wasn't busy, just reading a JSL sign book and practicing along to it. Oboro was with him too, settled right beside Izuku on the bed, reading along and showing him proper finger placements and gesturing as they read along together. He left the book on his bed as he made his way to the door, pulling it open and expecting to find one of his classmates on the other side, but was surprised to find Hisashi standing sheepishly there. He'd just seen the man an hour ago, maybe two if it was later than he thought, and usually his guardians text him if something happens, but he hadn't heard his phone go off, nor had it lit up where it was sat on the bed beside the book. "Is everything okay?" Izuku asked hesitantly, glancing quickly back at Oboro, who looks just as confused as Izuku feels. He looks back at Hisashi, frowning. "Yes," Hisashi answers before hesitating, "but also kinda no." Izuku blinks. "What?" Hisashi lets out a sigh, scratching at his hairline. "Nemuri just called," the man tells him softly. "Eri's just a little scared to sleep in her new room. I guess she spent a lot of time alone when she was with Chisaki. Nem said she offered to sleep in there with her, but Eri keeps asking for you." "She does?" Izuku asks in surprise, and then his surprise falls to heartbreak at the thought of Eri being scared. She is?" Hisashi offers a small, sad smile. "We'd sort of expected this. She went from isolation, being surrounded by figures that she deemed were safe, to a new guardian who she knows and likes, but who doesn't quite provide that same level of comfort. And a new room is a big, scary change, especially on that first night, but Nem was just wondering if you'd be willing to have a bit of a sleepover with Eri, to break her into the new room, you dig? Sleeping in there with you by her side might show her that it's okay, that it's safe." Hisashi pauses, biting hesitantly at his bottom lip. "But don't feel obligated to, kiddo. I'm not here to pressure you, I'm just here to keep you in the loop. We know that you're going back to school tomorrow, and if you're not feeling like staying over at the 2 Gen Ed dorms, then if you want some time to get ready for tomorrow, we can handle it. Nem can use her quirk on Eri-chan if worst comes to worst, and it is falling asleep that's the hardest part. Still, it's up to you." "I want to help," Izuku tells his guardian without much thought. "She's scared, and if me being there will help her settle in, I don't mind sleeping on the floor. Besides," Izuku rubbed sheepishly at the back of his neck, "I've been sleeping on the floor since she started staying with us, right? What's one more night?" "You're such a nice kid," Hisashi tells him kindly, reaching a hand up to ruffle through the green curls. "I'm sure Nem and Eri will both appreciate this, sunshine. That little girl really looks up to you." "I'd do anything for Eri," Izuku tells Hisashi before biting his lip guiltily. He'd almost moved out of the apartment without his guardian's knowledge for her, he supposes, and if by the way Hisashi winces slightly, he must be thinking the same thing. "And I always liked sleepovers when I was little. I was usually going to Kachan's house, but it was always fun. Maybe if we make Eri's room into something fun, then she'll be more comfortable." "Worth a shot," Hisashi agrees, thankfully brushing off Izuku's comment. Nem was hoping to start getting Eri on an earlier sleeping schedule since she'll be waking up earlier too. You up for that? I could sleep, Izuku grins. I'll just bring my phone with me, and I can keep myself distracted until I fall asleep. I am pretty tired, though. I can change into pajamas now and head over to the Gen Ed dorms. I'll have some time to come back to my dorm and get changed into my uniform and grab my stuff before the classes start in the morning. Sounds like a plan. Hizashi smiles softly. Text Sho or I if you need us, or talk to Nem. She'll take good care of you. You're doing her a favor. I'll be fine, Izuku huffs fondly. Hizashi laughs, patting Izuku on the head like he's a pet or something. All right. Just hurry up before curfew. I'm sure that Nezu would not be too happy to see students out of their dorms after hours. Nem said that she left the stairwell door unlocked for you, so you shouldn't run into any problems. Just give one of us a call if you do, all right? I will, Izuku chimes with a bow of head. Good night, Sashi, and, pass it on to Shota, too. Will do. Hizashi's smile softens. Have a good night. Good luck with Eri-chan, kiddo. Hizashi leaves after that, and Izuku's quick to change into comfy clothes. He tugs his all-might sweater over his head, and he slips his toothbrush, toothpaste, phone charger, and phone into the pouch pocket. He doesn't think that he needs anything else. It's unlikely that Nemuri wouldn't have anything that he may need. With everything sorted out, his uniform laid out for a quick dressing, and his school bag packed up and ready to be grabbed in the morning, Izuku pulls his door shut behind him and heads to the stairs with a cold presence following after him. I love sleepovers, Oboro tells him as they head toward the stairs. Sho, Zashi, and I used to have them all the time, usually at mine or Zashi's place. I doubt that this one will be like those, though. Probably just trying to get Eri-chan comfortable enough so she'll fall asleep. Not as much fun. You and I should have a sleepover. That would be epic. We have sleepovers every night, Izuku snorts as he makes his way down the steps. No, the ghost pouts. We're just in the same room at night. You sleep like a boring person, and I read all night. I mean, like, we have popcorn and sodas and eat candy and watch movies. I sleep like a regular alive person, Izuku corrects with a huff. He pauses when he reaches the bottom of the stairwell, turning back to look at the ghost. We can have a sleepover if you want, though. Sounds fun. Even though you really can't eat or drink. Not normally. We can still watch movies. Awesome. Sleepover. Oboro grins. Izuku snorts a laugh, shaking his head at Oboro's antics as he finally pushes the door open and steps into the common area. He sees a couple of his peers, Todoroki and Hitoshi, Yaoyorozu, Ida, Jiro, Kaminari, and Shoji. Midoriya. Todoroki's the first to spot him, calling him to attention. The rest of his peers glance over, too. Izuku hesitates before making a beeline toward the table where everyone is sitting. He hopes that Eri doesn't mind waiting a bit longer. It would be rude to just ignore his friends. Midoriya-kun. Yaoyorozu smiles kindly. Jiro, Kaminari, Ida, Shoji, and I were just going to play a round of cards. Would you like to play, too? The more the merrier. We're watching. Hitoshi chimes in from where he's sitting at the table, too, but looking a bit reserved at being surrounded by 1A kids. He's still getting used to being a part of the close-knit class. Still, his hands are tucked in the pockets of his sweatshirt, and he's slouched back against the chair. I don't know how to play, Todoroki explains with a perplexed blink as Shoji shuffles the cards. I hope I understand enough to play the next round. I just don't want to play, Hitoshi shrugs. Hitoshi doesn't really look like he wants to be here, but Kaminari, who's sitting on his knees bouncing in the chair next to him excitedly, must be the reason Hitoshi is even entertaining the idea. Kaminari, like Izuku, just has that natural charm that draws in even the most Hitoshi of people. Kaminari is the second 1A kid to actually manage to befriend Hitoshi without help. Izuku's just glad that his friend is putting in the effort to get to know their classmates now that he's a 1A student too. They really lucked out with how kind everyone in the class is, and they're all great friends to have if you put in the effort. School's a bit more fun when you're not always alone. Thanks for the offer. Izuku shakes his head apologetically. I really wish I could, but I was just on my way out. Out? Ida questions, looking up sharply. It's almost dorm curfew. Is Sensei aware of this? Are you planning to be back by curfew? We shouldn't be causing any problems, especially right before classes are due to continue. I know. Izuku answers lightly, shooting his friend in the no and knowing look. He is, and no, I won't be back before curfew, since I already approved of it. Ida looks like he's about to short-circuit at Izuku's answers, despite the mention of Shota approving, or at least Izuku hopes that the man knows what's going on. Maybe he should have clarified with Hizashi. Oboro's laughing by the door where he's waiting, and Izuku feels a bit bad about his friend being worried about him in their class, and Shota by extension, too. Relax, class prez. Hear the guy out before jumping on him, Jiro says, glancing at Izuku before Ida can say anything else. So, where are you off to then, Midoriya? Well, you guys know how Eri was moved into the Gen Ed dorm since Midnight Sensei took over as her guardian? Izuku gets some nods, which he expected. It is common knowledge at this point the class had gathered to send her off just that afternoon, even though she was just going 5 minutes away. Eri-chan's a little scared of her new room, so Midnight Sensei asked if I was willing to stay with her for the night, since I was staying with Eri and Aizawa Sensei upstairs when Sensei was her caretaker. She has a bit of an attachment, I think. Aw, so the little dear misses you, Yayorozu coos. That's so sweet. I guess. Izuku shrugged sheepishly, trying to ignore the flush that he feels crawling up his cheeks at Yayorozu's tone. He's definitely blushing hard, as Hitoshi grins teasingly when Izuku glances at his friend. She's just a bit scared, and after the raid I guess that she and I bonded a bit. That's so cute, Jiro teases, grinning sharply when she notices that he flushes at the praise. I could tell she liked you, just by how tightly she was holding your hand before she left. You're a comforting person. It was so very cute how taken she was with you. Yayorozu agrees, face softening as she is imagining the world's cutest thing. I know when we moved into the dorms it was a big change for me. I assumed that it's the opposite for poor Eri-chan. My room was far smaller than I was used to, but knowing what she came from, this must be so scary for her. Izuku nods at that, and the sadness tightens around his heart again. Yeah, he agrees hollowly, swallowing down the heartbreak. I just don't know how to really help her adjust, you know? She can't be dependent on me. I won't always be able to sleep over with her, not when school starts back up, and we've got homework and training, but I hate the thought of her being scared and wanting me when I can't be there. She does really like you, Hitoshi frowns, almost sympathetic. That's what you get for being so damn charming. Izuku gapes at his friend in surprise. How did you make a compliment sound like an insult? Natural talent. The purple-haired boy offers a toothy, sarcastic smile. Jiro snorts a laugh, and even Yayorozu looks amused. Hitoshi seems to find the table very interesting after making the girls laugh, and Hitoshi clears his throat after a second. Anyways, don't you have somewhere to be, Izuku? Yes, Oboro answers, huffing like an annoyed toddler. We do. Don't forget curfew, dude. Shoto'll be pissed if you're out past curfew again, no matter why you're out. If Nezu sees you, then that rat definitely will. It's Sho's ass that he's going to be after. Right, Izuku nods, answering both Hitoshi and Oboro. Yeah, I do. Sensei will be very unhappy if I don't make it to the Gen Ed dorms before curfew. I'm sure that Midnight Sensei is wondering where I am. Sorry for keeping you. Yayorozu frowns apologetically. Eri and Midnight Sensei must be waiting on you. No! Izuku yelps, shaking his head furiously. Yes, they probably are, I guess, but it's only been a second. I knew what I was doing when I stopped to talk to you guys. It's fine, really. I wanted to talk to you all anyways, and it would be rude to just ignore you. I do need to get going. We get it, Jiro huffs fondly, shooing Izuku away playfully. Get out of here, Midoriya. You've got somewhere to be, and at this rate, curfew for our rooms will be coming before we even get through a game. Tell Eri hi for us, Kaminari grins. We'll totally need to get Sensei's permission to host her here again. A whole class sleepover. Totally unfair only Midoriya gets to hang out with Eri-chan tonight. Not sure that a traumatized little girl's dependency on him is something he really wants to brag about. Hitoshi rolls his eyes, but there's no malice in the action or words. Kaminari still puckers his lips in offense. Yeah, guess not. Kaminari agrees finally, letting out a puff of breath that has him deflating. Poor Eri, but still, it was nice having Eri-chan around. I think she'd like it. If we could even invite Togata-senpai and the rest of the big three, I'd like Hato-senpai coming to visit our class again. I'm sure you would, Romeo. Jiro teases as she sends her earphone jack snapping out to jab against Kaminari's wrist playfully. Not cool, Kaminari pouts, rubbing at his wrist. I was just saying, 'cause Eri-chan likes Togata-senpai and she likes Midoriya, right? And we can't just invite Togata, that'd be totally not cool. It's not because she's pretty. She is pretty, obviously, but that's not why. We should invite her for Eri's sake, not just because she's... Jiro rolls her eyes. We get it. Really digging yourself into a hole there, Kaminari. Hitoshi snorts out under his breath as he sips at his coffee. He'd better hope that Shota doesn't catch him with that so late. The problem with having your uncle as your dorm guardian and your homeroom teacher means that Shota knows and will enforce Yua's rules. Not that Shota wouldn't scold any of them for drinking coffee so late in the evening. Quit while you're ahead, dude. Anyways, Kaminari huffs out, I just thought it would be fun. It would, Izuku agrees, feeling sorry for Kaminari. There's nothing wrong with having a crush on an upperclassman, so long as he's respectful about it. I'm sure that Eri would love it. She just needs to settle in first, but I'm sure we can run it by Aizawa-sensei. Run what by Aizawa-sensei? Izuku swirls around to face the door where Shota had just announced his presence. He can just faintly see the man as he kicks off his uniform boots in the Genkin, and the man's voice carries, and Izuku wonders how long he's been listening in, going completely undetected. Oh, a party of sorts. Ida takes responsibility, easily telling their teacher as the man finally joins them in the kitchen area, and his hands are tucked in his pockets and his eyes are tired. For Eri-chan, Kaminari suggested that we have a small party for her, and Midori advised that we give Eri-chan some time to settle in before bringing it up. What are your thoughts on the matter, Sensei? Would a party be acceptable? I don't care what you guys do, as long as you don't wreck anything. The man shrugs. Problem Child has a point, though. Eri needs time to resettle with Midnight before we bring her back to what she knows here. That's confusing for a child in her situation. If you miss her, you're welcome to visit her. She'll be starting a homeschooling curriculum during the school week, so she'll be around. And I'm sure that Midnight wouldn't mind visitors after hours if you clear it with her first. As Eri's legal guardian, anything you do plan will need to go through Midnight, so I'm not the person to ask anyways. The man pauses, looking around at his students before settling his gaze on Izuku. Speaking of, weren't you on your way out, Midoriya? Midnight is expecting you. Right. Izuku bows quickly before turning on his heels and heading toward the door where Oboro is snickering at his expense. Good night, guys, and, good night, Sensei. There's a cheerful chorus of good nights in return from his peers, and Shota waves him off easily. Izuku leaves the room with a small wave as he steps into the Genkin to slip on his sneakers. The walk to the Gen Ed dorms is relatively quiet. Even with Oboro at Izuku's side, the ghost keeps pace but doesn't say much. It's when their destination is in sight that Oboro finally speaks. You know, Oboro calls his attention, slipping his hands into the pockets of his uniform pants. Hanging out with you is like going shopping with my mom, where she finds someone that she knows and starts talking and it feels like we're standing there for hours. I'm having flashbacks to 10-year-old me staring at lettuce in the produce section while my mom chats with someone that she knows for half an hour. Izuku snores a laugh as he walks. I take offense to that. I couldn't just walk away. They're my friends too, and it would be rude. And, you're a ghost. You're just lucky that I'm weird and can see and hear you, and you know why I don't talk to you around adults. I am lucky that you're weird and can hear and see me. Oboro agrees fondly. It's not weird, though. It's really cool. I'd still like you even if I wasn't a ghost, demanding your attention because you're the first person in literal years to acknowledge me. If you weren't a ghost, our friendship would be weird. I'm pretty sure that our friendship would freak out Shota and Hizashi, even if you weren't a ghost. I mean, you're like 30. You say as if 30's old. Oboro pouts. 30 is not old. It is when you're 16, Izuku reasons lightly. You're old enough to have kids, and it wouldn't even be weird. I don't even graduate for another 2 years. Oh, God. My best friends do have a kid. They have a teenager. Oboro wheezes out, like this is a realization to him. I'm an uncle to a teenager. Geez, 30 is old. I'm older than 30. I'm an old man, Izuku. You're just a baby, man. Don't say that. You're not my uncle, Izuku hisses under his breath as they arrive at the Gen Ed dorm building. Izuku rounds the building, and just like Hizashi had said, the hidden door around the back does click open when he tries it. And technically I'm adopted. You guys would have been around 15 when I was born, so a bit young. Izuku doesn't realize what he had said until Oboro is grinning widely. Not that I am adopted or anything, because they're fostering me, Izuku yelps under his breath, and he's aware that they're now in a dorm building that's fast approaching curfew. Plus, with school starting back up tomorrow, everyone will be preparing for that, and he doesn't want to disturb them. He also doesn't want to be caught shouting at nothing. I was just making a point that they're too young to be my dads unless they were getting real lucky as teenagers. Exactly. Izuku breathes out before the horror sets in when the ghost's words actually catch up to him. Wait, no, that's not what I meant. I don't want to think about that. We're not talking about them. Gross, Oboro. No, you can't just, they're my, you can't just say things like that. Okay. The ghost is laughing hysterically, hardly even able to get the words out. I get it. You talking about your dads like that is weird, even though they're my best friends, and it's completely natural for me to do it, and as my best and only friend who can communicate with me, you're subject to it. I guess I'll let it go for your sake, man, but before I do that, I just want you to know that neither of those shy, oblivious blockheads were getting anything in high school. They were not, in fact, lucky. I didn't need to know that. I really didn't need to know that. Izuku dry washes his face as embarrassment settles in his cheeks. You just made it worse. How did you manage to make this conversation worse? You're the worst, you know that? You know that, right? The absolute worst. So I've been told. The ghost laughs openly, keeping pace with Izuku even when he speeds up in an attempt to leave the ghost on the stairs. Now, come on, Eri-chan's been waiting for us. Yeah, all right. Izuku drags his hands down his face before tucking his hands into his pockets as he sets up the stairs. And they're not my dad's. Whatever you say. Sometimes I wonder why I even talk to you. When they finally make it up to the apartment, Izuku's surprised by how quickly the door is pulled open when he knocks. Nemuri looks a little frazzled. She lets out an exhale of relief, offering Izuku a small smile as she gestures them in, and he's led into the apartment and into the living room where a very tired yet very wide-awake Eri sits watching an old children's film that Izuku hazily remembers watching over at Kachan's house when he was very little. The little girl lights up as soon as she sees him, and Izuku feels bad for Nemuri, who just smiles sadly at him, and then the little girl, as Eri fights her way out of the blanket that she'd been wrapped up in, and pads quickly toward him. He doesn't even hesitate to heft the girl into his arms, returning the embrace when little arms wrap around his neck. He catches Nemuri smiling softly at them, though there is a distant sadness in her eyes. Izuku does a bedtime routine with Eri and Nemuri and tries not to feel awkward. It's generally something that he does alone or in the communal bathrooms in the dorms, so being in a tight space with them is a bit out of his comfort zone. Eri and Nemuri are both already wearing pajamas as well, so Eri is ready to brush her teeth with Izuku. They head into the bathroom together, and Eri insists on holding his hand when they come out. Nemuri waits in Eri's room, perched on the edge of the bed. Eri and I put the futon together for you when we heard that you were coming to sleep in her room with her, Nemuri tells him, gesturing to a nicely made-up futon just a step or so away from Eri's bed. Izuku is oddly touched that he's not sleeping on the floor. Eri-chan was such a big help. She picked out the blankets and the sheets. And I found a kitty for you, Eri tells him proudly, breaking away from him and marching up to the futon. She drops onto her knees, where she picks up a black and white stuffed cat, holding it up for him to see. It looks like yours, from your room, so you can sleep good too. Nemi says it's nice to have something to cuddle at night. Izuku hears a distant snort coming from the other corner of the room where Oboro is sitting, perched on a toy chest, before looking back at Nemuri, who shrugs innocently. Izuku blinks at the woman before looking back at Eri, expression softening. Thank you, Eri. It does look like mine, doesn't it? It's perfect. The little girl offers a tiny smile. She doesn't smile a lot, not like Izuku remembers beaming when he was little. He doesn't know if that's just who Eri is, or if it's just not an expression that she knows. He's making it his mission to make her smile, a real smile. There's a kitty that looks like Sushi, too, the girl tells him, now moving toward her bed. Nemuri helps her up, but Eri, for the most part, does it independently, and she's been the same way at their apartment, so Izuku's not worried about that. He kneels on the futon as Eri searches through the new pile of stuffed animals on the bed before she finally shows him a plush that does resemble Sushi, from what he's seen at least. He comes in here, in my room. Nemi and I colored, and Sushi was under the table. He tickled my toes. His whiskers are tickly, aren't they? Nemuri smiles at her as she's gotten a little more calm and natural as the little girl settles down. Now that Tsukuni's here, how about that story I was going to read, huh? Everyone got you lots of books to read. We can read a new one every night. I love stories, Izuku adds as he gets under his own covers. Nemuri reads a story and Izuku enjoys it a lot more than he thought he would have. He immerses himself into the story and enjoys Eri's tiny reactions and rapt fascination as she looks through the pictures with Nemuri. He's content sitting crisscross on the bed with Oboro sitting at his side, listening along too. He tries to keep himself distant while still being a part of everything, wherever the little girl looks over at him for reassurance. He doesn't comment or add anything unless Eri asks him directly, and for the most part she's almost forgetting that he's there, which he's glad about. When the book is finished, Eri lays down on the bed and even lets Nemuri tuck her in slightly. She clutches the unicorn to her chest, but still looks nervous as she glances around the room, even with Izuku lying on the floor beside her. When Nemuri leaves the room, she leaves it open ajar. A nightlight is in the corner of the room, and it flickers to life, and Izuku stares up at the ceiling. He's pretty sure that she heads into her bedroom across the hall. It's quiet for a couple of minutes, quiet enough that Izuku thinks that Eri might have fallen asleep. "Sukuni," comes the soft voice. Her voice is quiet, whispered like she's nervous that he's asleep and doesn't want to wake him. His heart melts at her tone, and when he turns his head a little, he can see her trying to look down at him without making too much noise, maybe to see if he's asleep or not. He shifts on the futon, thumbing at the ear of the cat plush that's laying on his chest. "Yeah, Eri-chan?" She doesn't reply, but he does feel her gaze on him. He carves his fingers through his hair as he pushes himself up so he's sitting. The cat stuffed toy falls into the gap that he makes between his knees as he crosses his legs. "Why are you scared?" Eri shifts too, matching his position, except she's clutching at the unicorn to her chest, and the little girl's quiet for a long second, and Izuku doesn't push. What if he comes back? Overhaul?" "He won't," Izuku assures quietly, making sure to keep his voice calm and understanding. "He's in prison. That's when... You know how he kept you hidden, and you couldn't leave? That's sort of like prison, except you didn't deserve what he did to you. Overhaul does deserve to go to prison for what he did to you, though. He's been put somewhere that he can't even use his quirk to hurt anyone, and he'll be there for a long time for what he did, for how he hurt you." "How do you know?" Eri asks, voice so soft that he almost doesn't hear it. "Well," Izuku bites his lip. He wants to tell her that's just what happens when criminals are caught after doing something unspeakable, but Eri wouldn't really understand that. "The heroes promised that he was going somewhere that he couldn't hurt anyone again. Remember the heroes that you met that day? Sir Night-Eye and Eraserhead, Lemillion." "Deku?" Eri adds quietly, red eyes almost shining in the light from the nightlight. "Yeah." Izuku bites back the smile. "Me too. I'm not really a hero yet, but Sir was, and Eraserhead is. Everyone worked so hard to stop Overhaul, and all the other bad guys who worked for him and to rescue you. Do you know why they're heroes, Eri-chan?" The little girl shakes her head silently. "They're heroes because they want to help people, like how they helped you and how they helped me. Heroes save people. They protect people. I know everything's scary right now, but you're safe here. I trust Eraserhead when he says that Overhaul was locked up somewhere and he can't hurt anyone. And I trust that they'll keep us safe. Eraserhead, Hisashi, and Nemi, they're all the grown-ups at this school, and all the students too, like Lemillion, Hato-chan, Tamaki-kun, and all our friends in 1A. "I trust you, Sukuni," the little girl offers like it's a secret, and Izuku tries to ignore the fond swell in his heart. "And Lemillion too. You saved me." "We all saved you," Izuku corrects gently. "Lemillion and I needed help so that we could help you. So we asked heroes that we trusted, and we made sure that we all got out safe, right? If we can trust them, then you can trust them too, right? No one will let Overhaul hurt you ever again, okay?" "What about Sir?" the little girl asks, and her face is now buried in her knees and the unicorn plush. Izuku draws in a breath, sending a glance back at Oboro. The ghost had remained silent. They're both still a bit on edge after Eri was able to sense Oboro's presence. "Sometimes," Izuku starts, choosing his words carefully. He's not prepared for the little girl to really understand the idea of mortality. "Sometimes bad things happen, and you don't get better. Sir Night-Eye got hurt very badly by Overhaul, and there wasn't anything that anyone could do to help him. Sometimes people get really hurt, or they get very sick, or a lot of the time they just get old, and sometimes they don't get to stay with us because of it. Sometimes people do die. Sir Night-Eye died, Eri." "Oh," the little girl breathes out, eyebrows furrowing as if trying to understand. "Lemillion was really sad when he came and visited me in the hospital. He was smiling, but he was sad." Izuku remembers Togata coming to visit Eri. She'd just regained consciousness after her fever had broke, and it had only been a day since Sir Night-Eye had passed. He'd come into the room that first time with a bright smile, and it hadn't reached his eyes, a facade that was crumbling as the minutes went by. He hadn't stayed long, leaving the room as his eyes started to water, and his smile turned wobbly. "She's very empathetic," Oboro says slowly, as Izuku tries to figure out how to continue. He really should have expected Eri to be perceptive. She's been compassionate when they'd met too, and scared out of her mind, but still going willingly with her abuser to protect them. Lemillion really likes Sir Night-Eye, Izuku tells the little girl, looking up toward the ceiling thoughtfully. He was a mentor to him, a teacher. When you lose someone like that, sometimes it takes some time to really understand your feelings. We were all sad that he died, but we were happy that you were safe, and that you were okay. That was our goal. Mine, Lemillion's, Sir Night-Eye's, and every hero there's too, and Lemillion he didn't want you to think that he was sad, so he smiled. Sometimes you can feel a lot of different emotions all at once. Once again, Eri is quiet while she processes the explanation. My grandpa died, Eri offers softly, after a second of silence. Izuku blinks, dropping his attention from the ceiling and onto the little girl who's staring down into the eyes of her unicorn toy. That's why Overhaul was taking care of me. I miss him a lot. I was really sad, too. I'm sure that he really loves you, Eri, Izuku tells her softly. He thinks back to the raid. He hadn't seen any ghosts besides Oboro, none that he could tell was a ghost, but also no one who looked like they could have been a grandfather either. Though, when he really thinks about it, he hadn't really felt like the little girl was entirely alone either when they'd found her. He'd gotten the same feeling when he'd first met Eri, but he'd assumed that it was the echoes. It wasn't exactly the kind of ghost stuff that he usually experienced, but there was definitely a strong adoration that settled in his chest when they'd found Eri. Stronger than he probably should have felt for the little girl, who, at the time, he'd only known for maybe half an hour, if that. He hadn't acknowledged it then, didn't even really want to think about it, really, but now? Could it have been her grandfather, maybe? A ghost that he couldn't see or hear, but was there all the same. Someone pushing a wave of adoration onto him over the little girl that he'd never met before. If ghosts themselves weren't impossible, then the idea of it wasn't that far-fetched. He did, Eri tells him, burying her nose into the unicorn's fur. I remember he always told me. Never said I was a curse like everyone else. You're not a curse. Izuku swallows down the rage that he feels for anyone who told this sweet little girl that she was one. You just never had anyone teach you how to use your quirk. Mine was hard to use too when I first got it. It takes time, and we all have accidents. Mine hurts people, Eri tells him, voice muffled by the toy. Mine hurts me. Izuku lets out a sheepish little laugh. But the more that I practiced, the more that I started to understand it, the better I got. The more control I had. You shouldn't have to be afraid of your quirk, Eri. It's not a curse. You used it to help me, remember? A curse wouldn't do that, and I couldn't have beat Overhaul without you, Eri-chan. Eri lifts up her face from the plush, eyebrows furrowed as she studies him from across the room. You don't have to if you don't want, Izuku starts carefully. But I'm sure that someone here could help you with your quirk. Hisashi has a really hard-to-control quirk as well, and he'd be able to help you understand how to control yours, and Shota can stop your quirk if it starts to hurt people. Is that something you'd like to try? Eri looks at him for maybe a second longer before looking away toward the door. Maybe. Izuku knows better than to push any further, especially tonight. He knows he wasn't invited to stay with Eri in order to have them stay up all night, but if doing it one night means that she'll feel better about it every other night, then he's sure that no one would mind. He knows Nemuri had gone to bed by now. The apartment outside the bedroom is dark, and he doesn't hear a TV or anything. He wonders what time it really is, but doesn't want to look at his phone. Izuku-ni. Eri's voice is quiet again, but it's nervous now. You're not going to leave, are you? Izuku swallows, staring hard at the ceiling. Not tonight, no, he tells her. But tomorrow I have to go to class, and I can't keep staying the night with you. Why? The little girl asks in a tone that breaks his heart. I just can't. Izuku bites his lip. I can't keep sleeping by you, Eri. I have a schedule that I need to follow, and I wake up super early a lot of the time. I have my own room, and I think my friends are starting to miss me. I can't come here every night, and you can't come stay with me either. He's been spending most of his time with Eri, and he knows all his friends understand why, but that doesn't stop him from feeling guilty when they invite him to go do things, and he's too busy worrying about Eri. even today, when he was invited to play cards with everyone. He wants to keep everyone happy, but there's only one of him. Shota had been right, Izuku realizes. None of them have the time or the mentality to always be what she needs when she needs it, and they're busy with school and social lives and quirks. He understands now that they can't be the constant that she needs. I like having Sukuni with me, Eri admits softly, turning her face away from him. Not as scary. You protect me. There's nothing to be scared of, Eri-chan, Izuku whispers, watching her even though he knows that she's not looking in his direction. You're safe in your room, and Nemuri will protect you. You're safe here, and I'm only a couple of buildings over, right? If anything ever happened, and you really needed me, I'd come for you so fast, okay? He hesitates. But only if you really need me. Really, really. We'll still see each other loads, though, okay? I'll still come over to see you all the time, and we can arrange sleepovers, too, if you'd like, but you need to be here with Nemuri, and I need to be home with my class, and Shota and Hisashi. Eri looks back at him, studies him hard in a way that makes her look years older, yet also young and childlike. It's not exactly a good look on the little girl. Izukuni misses his friends. I do, Izuku tells her honestly, laying back onto the futon. I don't have a lot of spare time anymore, and I've been spending a lot of time making sure that you're okay and hanging out with you, which I love to do. You're allowed to need me, but I can't always be around. I know that you don't really understand that, and that's all right. Eri's quiet again, and he's not really sure if she does understand this. The dependency that she had on him is a little overwhelming, and he'd never want to hurt her, but he also knows that he can't play into it like she needs. He doesn't really have the time between his classes, training, homework, and personal time, so he doesn't run himself into the ground. There's no balance. I miss you when you're not here, Eri whispers. Izuku's heart breaks all over again. I miss you too, Eri. He bites hard at his bottom lip, glaring up at the ceiling. You know, missing someone just means that you'll be even more excited when you finally see them again. Eri doesn't respond, but he does feel her gaze on him. He refuses to look back at her. He doesn't want to give in, can't give in. He knows that if he looks into her eyes, he'll say something dumb in an attempt to comfort her. She doesn't need comforting promises that he can't keep. She needs honesty and truth in a way that she can understand. It's not so bad sleeping alone, Izuku tells her finally. I do it a lot, and you have all these cuddly stuffed toys. Remember what Nemi had said? Always nice to cuddle with something, and I bet that Sushi would like to sleep in here with you if that's something that you'd like. Fish liked sleeping with you. I like Sukuni being here with me, though. Izuku bites back a sigh. Rubbing at his forehead, he angles his head to look back at Oboro, and the ghost just looks as lost as he feels. It's like he's taking a step forward and followed by 3 steps backward and trying to comfort Eri. I know. Izuku relents, knowing that he won't make any progress tonight. Eri's still too attached to him. She can't understand this. All she knows is that Izuku makes her feel safe. Why don't we try to sleep? Just like back at the apartment with Shota and Hisashi, yeah? Okay, comes a meek little voice, followed by the ruffling of sheets as she turns onto her back. It's quiet once again. Izuku is listening to Eri's breaths, but it doesn't even out like he had heard it at the apartment. She isn't falling asleep, and he's starting to get worried. Izuku thinks about asking her if there's anything that he could do to help her fall asleep, even if it's against his better judgment, when... He's Zukuni's friend, right? Who? Izuku asks quietly, keeping his eyes shut. They are supposed to be trying to sleep now. Him, over there. He's here now, Eri says instead. He was here when Zukuni was here playing tea party. Then he left with Zukuni, and now he's back. He's your friend. Izuku tenses up, eyes flicking open as he angles his head just enough to be able to see the ghost. Oboro is frozen in place once again, staring wide-eyed at Eri. Yeah, Izuku breathes out a breath of fear. He's my friend. Is he nice? Eri asks calmly as the bed shifts and Izuku pushes himself up to his elbows, turning his attention to the little girl who's holding herself up onto her elbows, head angled in the direction of the toy chest. He was at my tea party, too. He was? Izuku swallows. Yes. He's really nice. How do you know he's a boy? I don't know. Eri looks just as perplexed as Izuku feels. I just do, I think. Okay, Izuku tries to ignore the anxious flutter of his heart. What do you think about him? I think he's nice, Eri tells him honestly. He came to my tea party, and I think he was there too, at, when you saved me, and he's gotta be nice if he's Ikuni's friend, right? Is he my friend too? Yes, Oboro croaks out from across the room. Izuku can't imagine what the ghost must be going through, another person acknowledging his presence after so long. Eri might just be a little girl, and he's not sure if she can sense Oboro because the children are more spiritually connected or because of what Shizuki did to her, but it's got to mean so much to someone who'd gone through years of torturous isolation. He'd love to be your friend, Eri-chan, Izuku offers with a light smile. The curious, soft smile that lights up the little girl's face should not be as adorable as it is. But right now, he wants us to go to sleep. I literally did not say that, Oboro groans. You're an awful translator. Oh, the little girl hums out quietly. Flopping back onto her mattress, she settles onto her stomach, tucking her arms under her pillow and resting her cheek down on the pillow almost like she's still looking at Oboro. I forgot. Eri shuts her eyes, and within a couple of minutes her breathing evens out. Izuku can't seem to fall asleep, thoughts now on the fact that someone else knows of Oboro's existence, and what's strangest to him is the fact that Eri didn't even question it. Didn't ask for his name or ask how Izuku knew that there was someone else in the room too. She didn't find his presence to be weird or freak out, just quietly accepted it like it was the most normal thing in the world. She didn't bat an eyelash about it. Children are weird. Izuku is tired the following morning, rightfully so. By the time he actually fell asleep, it was early hours of the morning. He just couldn't seem to quiet his thoughts. Thoughts of Oboro and his classmates, Eri. He's sure that he hadn't got more than an hour or two of sleep in the end. Eri had woken up chipper and talkative, and he'd never felt more envious of a child. She'd told Nemuri about all of the sleepover, leaving out the conversation topics entirely, which Izuku was grateful for. Still, when asked if she was ready to sleep by herself in the new room, or have Nemuri sleep on the futon instead, she'd gone worryingly quiet, withdrawing into herself. He really wants to help, but he knows this can't be a regular thing. The last time he felt this tired was when he was living on the streets. He wants to be there for everyone, but it isn't fair that he should have to feel like this. To be so exhausted, he almost feels like he could fall asleep just sitting down in his own bed after he had changed into his uniform that next morning. It's going to be one long, long day. He's a bit late arriving at class. Not late that he is actually late, but later than he usually is. Everyone else has already arrived, and they're all seated and waiting for Shota to arrive and to get homeroom started. He all but collapses into his chair and instantly lets his forehead thump onto the desktop. He's so tired. Rough night? Izuku groans at the sound of Hitoshi's voice, lifting his head and lulling his attention back. I didn't sleep at all, he admits. She was so scared, and I'm scared that she's going to want to do it again tonight, and I'm glad that she's comfortable, but I won't make it. I don't even know how I'm going to get through today. Actually, Izuku angles his head to look around Hitoshi and back at Yaoyorozu, who'd spoken up. I might have thought of something that might help Eri-chan feel more comfortable without you around. You have? Izuku perks up slightly. What did you think of? At this point I'll try anything, and I'm sure that Midnight Sensei agrees. After last night I think that this is almost a bit unhealthy. Well, Yaoyorozu bites her lip nervously. She turns to her backpack, speaking up as she does. I got to thinking about what you said after curfew last night, and I thought, well, you're comforting to her, and she wants you around even though logically you can't always be there, but what if you could? Izuku doesn't have time to question what that means, as Yaoyorozu pulls something from her bag and holds it out to him past Hitoshi, and is that him? The little stuffed Izuku has fluffy green felt hair and freckles sewn in, and the toy's eyes are the same green as his own, but more cartoony. He's wearing a pretty accurate depiction of his hero costume with the hood down. Ah, Yamomo! Ashido calls from across the room, standing up to peer over the desks and at the toy now in Izuku's hands. It's adorable! It looks just like him! Creepy Deku voodoo doll. Kacchan snaps under his breath. That kid's insane if she likes that thing. Hey, jealousy's not a pretty color on you, Kacchan. Hitoshi sneers, glaring at the ashen-haired teen. Mad Deku got merged before King Explosion murder. Katan grits his teeth, but he doesn't retaliate. As happy as Izuku is that there's someone sticking up for him and trying to keep Katan in line, he's also glad that Katan doesn't rise to the bait. He's really not in the mood to break up a fight. I just figured she might like something that resembles you if she can't have the real thing. It was easy to make. Cotton fabric was one of the first molecular structures that I had learned when I got my quirk, and I've always been good at sewing. You do so much for us all, Midori-kun. I wanted to try and help you out. I hope it's not weird. It's not. Izuku stares down at the doll. Okay, it's a little weird, but it's no different than a regular hero merch idea, like the Midnight doll that Eri already has. It's just weird that it's him. It's a good thing it'll be a while before there's any official Deku merch, because he'll need some time to wrap his head around accepting this. Thank you, Yaoyorozu. No, I'm sure that Eri will love this. The resemblance is uncanny, Zuku, Obro chimes, looking over his shoulder at the toy. I just hope that you can get a bit of a break with the Deku toy keeping her company. Yaoyorozu offers a gentle smile from her seat. You look exhausted, Midori-kun. Izuku snorts a tired laugh, nodding his head. I hope you're right, because I really am. That afternoon, Izuku brings Yaoyorozu with him to give Eri the toy. She absolutely adores it, hugging it right to her chest as she hugs both Yaoyorozu and Izuku each. Izuku sleeps like the dead that night without a word from his guardians or Nemuri. He doesn't hear anything about the little girl until he gets a text of success, along with a picture of Eri sleeping soundly with the Deku doll clutched tightly to her chest, from Hisashi while he's getting ready for his morning run. Izuku smiles to himself at the adorable photo, saving it in his phone. Success indeed. Eri and Midnight drop by the dorm the following afternoon after school. Eri smiles adorably as she beelines right where Izuku, Yaoyorozu, and a couple other of the classmates are working on their homework. She pulls herself into his lap, clutching her Midnight and Deku dolls to her chest as she asks Yaoyorozu to make her a lemillion one too. All right, everyone, this concludes Chapter 41 of Yuuei Survival Guide. Chapter 42 will be next. I hope you all are still enjoying this one, and as always, thank you so much for listening.